point out reform items, because we'll talk about how it works today, and then we'll talk about how it might work in the future if they pass some reform items. Then we're going to talk about the most common questions that we get around spousal benefits, who qualifies, what happens if my spouse passes away, and how does this all apply if I'm divorced or I have another unique scenario. So you'll walk away with some comfort on how the system works as a whole. So to start off, the Social Security system has been in place since 1935, and it's evolved and gone through many changes, but we haven't had major reform since back in the 80s under the Reagan administration, where they did sweeping reform of the Social Security system. You might read news articles these days that say Social Security becomes insolvent come 2035. The news articles meant to really stir everybody up. And what they're talking about is the Social Security Trust Fund. Every year they evaluate the trust fund, they look at the flows going out, and they project when that will run out of money. The trust fund funds 20% of our benefits. So let's talk doomsday scenario. We don't pass any reform items in the next 10 years, and everybody that is on Social Security, poor, rich, benefits will be cut by 20%. This is something that all politicians agree on. We're not going to let that happen. There's a lot of levers we have to pull to sustain the Social Security system well into the future. So how are Social Security benefits primarily funded? They are funded through our payroll taxes, which they call FICA taxes. If you're still employed and you look at your paycheck, you're going to see a line item that says OASDI, Old Age Survivors Disability Insurance. This is what you pay in to Social Security. Your employer pays in 6.2% and you pay in 6.2%, up to a maximum wage base that is set each year. So in 2024, once you make $168,600, you don't have to pay into the Social Security system anymore. You'll get a paycheck increase, more money thrown into your checking account. This is a reform item. Uncap the max wage base. Let's subject more of your payroll taxes to this Social Security tax. So that is up in the air. There's lots of different variations they could do. They could have it be a graduated system saying, hey, all your income over 400,000 will tax you at 3%. Another thing they could do is they could say, we haven't changed this 6.2% in a really long time. Let's make that 7.2%. So they always have the ability to raise taxes in different ways. Because when you look at the bottom, how we fund Medicare, there's no max wage base. You pay the 1.45% on all of your income. So they could align it with that or do something in between. Now, as long as you've paid into the system for 10 years, you are eligible to receive a Social Security benefit. They work in a credit system, but to simplify it, 10 years of paying in and working. They're going to base your monthly benefit check on your 35 highest earnings years. You don't need to work 35 years, you only have to work 10. But so your 35 highest earnings years, let's say you work 30 years. They're going to put 5 years in there as zeros. And those zeros will bring down the average on which they're going to calculate your monthly benefits. So the numbers I have listed on here is for 2024. Somebody that is paid in for 35 years at the maximum wage base that was set every year, this is the benefits that they would get at different ages. Reform item, let's make that 35 years, 38 years. If we increase that a bit, not a lot of people work that many years, and we could bring down the averages on which we base your benefit check amount on. So if there's two terms to really be familiar with, these are the two terms. What is my full retirement age? What is my primary insurance amount? Looking at the chart on the right, we're going to look for our year of birth, and that corresponds to an age. So if you were born in 1962, your full retirement age is 67. That's the age that the Social Security Administration has deemed you when you're going to retire. And if you take your benefits at that age, you will get what they call your primary insurance amount, the amount you would get if you waited until your retirement age that they set. Reform item, one that you see in the news quite often. We want to tie longevity to the full retirement age. Let's increase it. But if you're somebody close to your claiming decisions, you're in your 60s, this should not affect you. If they raise the full retirement age, it would affect more of the younger Americans. Let's say if you were born in 1980 or later, your full retirement age will be 68. So they will slowly kick it up. The last time they raised the full retirement age was in 1983, and people are living longer. Now, the 35 years that we just talked about, we know that back in the 80s, when you made $30,000, that's worth a lot more today. So they are going to give you credit and index up your earnings for today's dollars. Then, once you turn 62, they are going to give you the cost of living adjustment that they announce each year if you've turned your benefits on or you did not turn your benefits on. So you don't need to claim to get the cost of living increases as long as you are 62 or older. Now, again, reform item. The reason why I'm telling you all the reform items is so you know, wow, there's a lot they can do to sustain this system. One of them that's on the table is cost of living adjustments, means test, cost of living adjustments. What that means is people that have higher incomes and your tax returns show a lot of dollars on them, you won't get a cost of living adjustment going forward. So they would set a barrier. Maybe if you make more than 150,000, you will not get a cost of living adjustment going forward. So we don't know which of these reform items they will actually end up choosing and going with. I'm just pointing out all the different options that they have to play with. Now, last step, we have your 35 highest earnings years. We've indexed them up for inflation and we've broken that down to a monthly number. They call it your average indexed monthly earnings. This next step is all about income replacement. Let's give more income replacement to the low earners who need it more and a little bit less income replacement to the higher earners. So the first tier, your first $1,100, you're going to get 90% income replacement. Second tier, 32%. Third tier, 15%. Reform item. Let's add another bend point and make a 5% income replacement tier, or let's change the 15% to 5%. So if they uncap the max wage base, it may be coupled with this, tax more, but then limit what we get out of the system. So lots of different things they could do here. So what age are you allowed to start taking your Social Security benefits? You are allowed to start drawing and getting your Social Security benefits at age 62. But if you decide to take your benefits at age 62, you are locking in a permanent reduction, and it can be as much as 30% if your full retirement age is 67. So 30% reduction gets locked in and carries with you for life. But there are some people that really need the income. You're not able to retire without turning on this income. You need it to live off of, and you're comfortable with that reduction. Some people will turn it on for that reason. Some people might find out they have a terminal illness and, hey, I might only live another 5 years. absolutely turn it on. And then also, maybe you have a spouse and there's two benefits at play. One, you both have a Social Security benefit, which gives you the flexibility to have one person wait and one person take early. So your advisor will ask you questions when you talk about your claiming decisions, like, hey, are you still employed? Do you need this income? What's your family health history? How long have your parents lived? Let's talk about your spouse's benefit, because they're trying to determine, hey, are you a candidate to take at age 62? Because for every single month that you can delay past age 62, you do not need to wait a full year. Every month, your benefit is going to continue to grow, and it grows and grows and grows until age 70. That's the end of the road. Your benefit won't grow anymore. So you always turn it on at age 70. But you can see here that somebody with a full retirement age of 67 and a primary insurance amount of $3,000, if they wait until 67, they get to keep the $3,000. If they take at age 62, they get to keep 70% of their primary insurance amount, which is $2,100. Once they turn full retirement age, they give you a little sweetener. Well, if you don't turn your benefit on, we're going to give you an 8% bump every single year up until age 70. Not only are we going to give you an 8% increase in your benefits, we're also going to give you a cost of living adjustment on top of that. So it really packs the punch for people that expect to live a long life. You're pretty healthy. A lot of people will delay to get that extra value. Another thing to note here, once you turn full retirement age, you are able to retroactively claim benefits by 6-month increments. So if you say, okay, I just turned 67, I'm not sure if I want to wait till 70. Well, you can go 6 months. And then if you say, wow, I really wish I took it 67, I could have used that money to do some home improvements. You can call Social Security and say, I want to retroactively claim back 6 months. Let's pretend I claimed at 67. Send me a lump sum check for the last 6 months. So that's something you're allowed to do once you turn full retirement age. Now, this is all very important, that when we optimize and we say you'll get the most dollars out of the system, we have to make assumptions on when you're going to die. And this is the wild card. Nobody knows. And we have to guess at it to see, hey, what's the best claiming strategy? But what we know is that people are living longer, and the chances that a married couple, one of the two of you is going to live until your 90s is actually pretty high, and it's been increasing. Also, there is a break-even age that can be calculated for you. Some people like to know, they say, you know what, I can take my benefits at age 67 and I'm going to get $3,000. But if I take my benefits 5 years earlier at age 62, yes, I'm getting $2,100, but I'm going to collect $126,000 over those 5 years. Doesn't it make more sense for me to just take that big amount of money and invest it? That seems like a great idea. But there is an age that if you live past that age, every single check that you get after that age is pure profit. That you wait until 67. If you were to live past age 77, every single check, you're getting $900 additional. And that continues to add up each month over your lifetime. These numbers don't include cost of living adjustments, which make the break-even age even less. So just as a blanket statement, we tend to see people with high benefit amounts, more than 3,000 or somewhere around there. Their break-even ages are usually in the upper 70s. And then people with benefit amounts that are, less than 3,000, like 2,000, 1,500, we tend to see break-even ages somewhere between 81 to 83, to give you an idea. But if you are somebody that is considering taking your Social Security benefits before you turn full retirement age, there is something you have to be very well aware of, and it's called the earnings test. In 2024, the Social Security Administration allows you to make $22,320 in employment earnings. This is not investment earnings. This is not your pension. It's not you taking a distribution from your retirement account. It's you going to work. You get a W-2, a 1099. You get self-employment income. So think, I'm still working. If you make over the limit, they will withhold some of your Social Security benefits, $1 for every $2 above, and then they give you a little bit more in the year you turn full retirement age. Once you turn full retirement age, you're allowed to have as much in employment earnings as you would like. So work as much as you want and collect Social Security. But I'll give you a case study just so you see how they do this, so it makes more sense. So let's say your friend Joanne, she's a realtor, and she's turning 62, and she's decided she's tired of working off a commission. She wants her stable monthly check, $2,000. So she decides to turn it on early and get that reduced check. Then she proceeds to get a job, and she's working in an office making $45,000. And she doesn't think it's too much. Oh, that's not a huge salary. $45,000 is over the earnings limit, and it's over by $22,680. They are going to withhold $1 for every $2 above because she's only 62. Well, the way they do it is they take the amount they're withholding, they divide by your benefit check, round up, and they withhold your entire check. So Joanne, who's looking for a stable monthly check, doesn't get a Social Security check until July. So some of you that are thinking, hey, I want to take my benefits before my full retirement age, and you're making $200,000 a year, you won't get a Social Security check paid to you all year. So sometimes this blocks us from being able to claim when we want to because of the earnings test. So when it comes to spousal benefits exist because back in the day, it was very common for one person to stay home, take care of the kids. And the government said, you know what? They work just as hard. We should give them a Social Security retirement benefit too. Let's base their benefit on the working spouse's earnings record. So these days are very different. A lot of couples, you have, both people working and they both have their own benefit amounts. So what is a spousal benefit and when do you qualify? So as long as you've been married for a year and you are 62 years old, you want to look at the higher earning spouse's primary insurance amount. And as a reminder, primary insurance amount, the amount that they would get at their full retirement age. Divide that in half. What is 50% of that? That is the spousal benefit. Now you want to look at your own earnings record and your own Social Security statement and say, what is my benefit based on my own earnings record at my full retirement age? If yours is less than half of your spouse's, you qualify for a spousal benefit. But if you are only 62 years old and you take it early, everything we talked about, you're still locking in a reduction. You're still going to get less than half of your spouse's benefit. And the rules have changed over time. We used to have fancy claiming strategies where we could do a lot of fancy things. They no longer exist. The rules are simple now. You cannot turn on your spousal benefit until the higher earning spouse has filed for their benefits. So if your spouse is waiting until age 70 and they haven't turned their benefits on, you can't get your spousal benefit. So I'm going to give you a little case study here to make this come together and make a little more sense in your head. So let's say your friends, William and Kate, they're both the same age. They're both 62. They both have a full retirement age of 67, and they're considering their Social Security options. You look at William's record, and if he's 67 years old, his primary insurance amount is $2,000. When Kate is 67, she would get $500. She worked part-time at the school. Well, when you look at this, you say, okay, Kate would qualify for a spousal benefit because half of his is $1,000. That's more than hers. If her benefit amount was $1,500, she would not qualify for a spousal benefit. Her own retirement benefit is higher, so she doesn't get anything. So William, he decides to claim early. He's going to take it 62 and lock in that reduction and keep $1,400 a month. And he's decided he's comfortable with that. That does not affect Kate's claiming decision. She gets to decide, well, he filed, so I'm now eligible to get a spousal benefit. I can claim at 62 and get $650, a reduced benefit amount because I'm not full retirement age yet, or I can wait until my full retirement age of 67 and keep the full $1,000. You'll notice that spousal benefits don't grow after full retirement age. If she waited until age 70, it's still going to be $1,000. So let's say we're switching the scenario and William says, I am going to wait and claim at age 70 because I want a benefit of $2,480. I want a higher benefit amount, so I'm going to wait. Well, will Kate get half of that $2,480? And the answer is no, because the spousal benefit is always based on half of the primary insurance amount, his age 67 benefit amount. A lot of people get a little shocked by that later when they go to claim. That seems too low. That's not half of mine. It's the way that they do it. So in this case, where William waits until age 70, what Kate is going to do is once she turns full retirement age, we know that you don't have to worry about anything. You can work as much as you want. You don't have any reductions. She can turn on her $500 payment. She collects that $500 retirement benefit based on her own record. Then at age 70, when William files, her $500 will step up and increase to $1,000 once he files. So a lot of people leave money on the table, not turning on their small benefit amount at their full retirement age, thinking they need to wait until age 70 to wait for their spouse to file. So why would William wait until 70 and let his benefit grow? Typically, people do this thinking of their spouse. At the end of the day, we don't know who's going to die first. It's the wild card. But at the end of the day, hopefully we all live well until our 90s, into our hundreds. But somebody will die first. What do you get to keep? You get to keep one Social Security benefit, the higher of the two. You don't get to keep your retirement benefit and get an additional survivor benefit. You get one check, the higher of the two, which is why often the higher earner delays as much as possible. So for survivor benefits, you only have to be married 9 months, and the person that died, as long as they've paid into the system for 10 years, there is a Social Security survivor benefit there. But the catch here is, if the person that passed away doesn't have any dependent children, their widower has to be age 60 to take the survivor benefit. So you have to wait until age 60. If you get remarried prior to age 60, you can no longer claim the survivor benefit. But if you wait and get remarried after you turn age 60, you are still able to claim the survivor benefit. So some people unintentionally mess that up. Their spouse dies way too young. They meet someone later in life and marry them when they're 59 years old and give up the huge income stream they could be turning on. So once you turn age 60, you can turn on the survivor benefit. But again, since you're not full retirement age, your benefits will be reduced. You can see you only get to keep 71.5% of the survivor benefit. Every month that you wait, your benefits will grow. Once you're full retirement age, that's when you can keep 100% of the survivor benefit. Survivor benefits won't grow past your full retirement age. So that's the end of the road you can claim there. What's unfortunate here is a lot of people that lose a spouse, they're looking for income replacement. And if you're working, like we talked about the earnings test, let's say you're age 60 and you say, I want to replace my husband's, check. He was working and I want income replacement, but then I'm making $100,000. The earnings test still applies. They will also withhold your survivor benefits if you have employment earnings. So we often get asked, well, what happens if somebody dies young? Like, what is the survivor benefit? What happened? So my uncle, he passed away at 58 years old. He had cardiac arrest. It was very unexpected. So 58 years old, he wasn't eligible to turn on his Social Security benefits because we talked about 62 is the earliest you can turn on your retirement benefits. Well, the survivor benefit is 100% of his primary insurance amount. But let's say he had lived a much longer life. He had not turned on his Social Security. His plans were to delay until 70, and then he passed away at 69. Well, that higher benefit amount with that 8% a year up until age 69, that gets locked in as the survivor benefit. But let's say he lived until 62. 82.5% of the primary insurance amount is the survivor benefits. You lock in that permanent reduction for the survivor. And then, of course, if you're in that sweet spot where you claimed close to full retirement age and it's higher than 82.5%, of course, you'll get that larger amount. The other thing that people leave a lot of money on the table and don't get it right is when it comes to survivor benefits and retirement benefits, you are allowed to switch between your own retirement benefit and the survivor benefit. So we talked about how the retirement benefit, you can start that at 62. We also talked about the survivor benefit can start at 60. Hopefully you're not in this position, but you never know. Sit down with your financial advisor to help with the numbers. What is the largest number? Is the survivor benefit at my full retirement age the higher amount? Or is my own retirement benefit with that 8% a year up until age 70, is that the highest benefit? Because depending on what the answer to that question is, will help you with your strategy, where you can claim the survivor benefit at age 60. Obviously, the earnings test applies, so you'd have to be retired or have earnings below that 22,000 limit. And then you wait, once you turn age 70, you switch over to your higher benefits that have grown. So this is one that you have some fancy claiming strategies still available. And now for divorce, everything that we just talked about, spousal benefits, survivor benefits also applies for divorce situations. As long as you were married to your ex-spouse for 10 years, you hit that 10-year mark, and you did not get remarried, you are able to claim a spousal benefit, assuming your ex-spouse is the higher earner and half of your ex-spouse's benefit is higher than your own benefit, you can claim a spousal benefit. If you've been divorced for 2 years or more, then you are able to do that. Your ex does not have to be receiving benefits. Earlier, we talked about, hey, they have to turn on their benefits for you to qualify. In the case of divorce, they give an exception here. So 62 years old, you have to be, because it's a retirement benefit. And then also survivor benefits, if your ex passed away, everything we just talked about, you can also get that. Even if your ex has remarried and somebody else is getting a survivor benefit, you can also get the same survivor benefit. It's not reducing anyone's benefits. So there's no family maximum benefits because you are in different families. And then I'm not going to go into detail on pensions for the sake of time, but if you are somebody that has a government pension, then the way that you can figure this out is when you look at your Social Security statement, you're going to see a bunch of zeros for tax Social Security earnings and numbers in there for taxed Medicare. If your Social Security statement looks like that, you will be subject to 2 provisions called the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. What this means is what we just talked about: spousal benefits, survivor benefits. You haven't paid into the system. So if you try to claim a survivor benefit and a spousal benefit, they are going to reduce that benefit by 2/3 of the amount of your monthly pension. And then also your own Social Security benefit will also be reduced. They look at how many years you paid into the system, and the max reduction that they can take on your own Social Security benefit is $587 for 2024, no more than half of your monthly pension amount. So something that pertains to police officers, teachers, government workers most commonly. If you're somebody that gets a pension and you paid into the system and you have numbers in here, none of this applies. Then also people are surprised that they turn on their Social Security benefits and it throws taxable income on their tax return. They went, what? Social Security is taxable? But I paid the tax to get this benefit. It is taxable for most people. So if you're married filing jointly and you look at your tax return and you look at your adjusted gross income from line 11 on your 1040, you add in your muni bond interest, 50% of your Social Security benefit, and the number comes to above 44,000. Keep in mind, these have not been inflation adjusted since the 80s. So you might say, well, obviously, I'm going to be over that. Up to 85% of your Social Security will be subject to tax. The good news is 15% of your gross benefits will not be taxed. So we'll look at it in that light, the positive light. Some of your benefit won't be taxable income, but it's something to watch out for because some people wait till 70, they turn on their Social Security, and it often increases their Medicare premiums because of the income-related surcharge for Medicare. So something to talk to your advisor about. There are no right or wrong answers here. It's all about what are your goals for this money. If you're turning full retirement age and you say, I'm really healthy now, and I really want to go on these bucket list vacations, but I'm not going to go if I don't turn on my Social Security benefit because that's what's going to fund that vacation. And then I think 3 years from now, I might not be healthy and I'll never get to go. That can be a reason to turn it on. So there's a lot of variables here, how you're feeling about it. the longevity in your family? What are you trying to optimize for? So talk to your advisor to set goals for what you're going to use this money for. And there's no right or wrong answers. If optimization is your goal, I'm going to squeeze the most money I can get out of the system. That's where financial advisors really have a fun time. Like, okay, let's see, how long are we going to live? And we can give you those answers. But let them know your other goals, because they can also say, well, you could wait and delay, and we can fund that trip from this pot. So something to tell them all your dreams and your goals, and they'll tell you the right way to get there. Now, if you're somebody that already claimed Social Security, hey, I started taking my benefits at 62, and then now I'm 64, and I'm really bored in retirement, and I'm going back to work. This happens all the time. I see it often. Well, once you turn full retirement age, you can suspend your Social Security checks and at least get another couple years of that 8% a year up until age 70. You'll never be where you could have been, but at least we can grow that check a little bit by suspending. If you've been taking benefits for less than a year, you can pay everything back with no interest and get a full redo like you never filed. So I would encourage you to go on SSA.gov, create your profile so you can pull down your Social Security statement to share with your financial advisor. They have online calculators in there that you can play around with. And your financial advisor will sit down, determine your goals for the money. We'll figure out the optimal Social Security strategy for your unique situation. And this will be the foundation to your retirement income strategy that they will build on top of. So I know that was a ton of information. We will make sure that you will get these slides as a reference, but I can open it up and see if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Julia. I have one question, just to see maybe there is more information than just the age and accessibility to money. When we make a decision to turn on the Social Security sooner, obviously there is a disadvantages, reduced benefits, also the earning test, and seems like we're looking at longevity, historical numbers, and also looking to see if there is any income currently available for a client. Is there any other factors that come to play? Is there anything else besides availability of resources and the longevity?
Really, I'd say also the spousal, looking at the spouse and your age difference, because that does make a difference too, where sometimes you have, my spouse is more than like 10 years or more difference in an age. And you might say, oh, well, no, we're definitely not going to take at 62. Why would we do the reduced benefit? But if you think about it, if the person that's older is the higher earner and you're just going to end up with that benefit and they're a lot older than you, chances are they're going to pass away. So when we're optimizing, you might turn it on. Yeah, it's reduced, but they're probably going to die. You're just going to end up with that benefit. So you might as well collect money for years. So there's like considerations with like, who else are we talking about? Is it just myself or is it a spouse? What's our age gap? And what are both of our health situations look like?
Excellent. And I also heard that, and I've seen it in action, where if the client retiring sooner, but not 100% sure it's going to be their last job, we try not to turn on Social Security benefits. So we don't have to deal with the earnings test and all of that. We try to preserve it and grow it. And if the client has a critical mass of assets that we can, especially non-retirement assets, that they can draw against via dividends and distributions, that we can replicate that income for some time while we're waiting for the benefits to go up. Because market gives you 8-10% a year average annual return historically, but it's not guaranteed. Where Social Security benefits are growing, Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, 8% each year, and then they give it to you as long as you continue waiting, correct?
Yep, plus the cost of living adjustment.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's actually north of 8%, and there is no risk So those
Yeah.
benefits, and if you live long enough, especially beyond your 80s, then definitely turning on benefits later on makes a lot of sense. You collect much more later on.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for other questions to come in. So there is one just came in. Even after full retirement age, if we make and earn money and draw Social Security, are we still subject to earnings limitations after full retirement age?
Yep. No, you are good to go. Once you turn full retirement age, you're allowed to make as much as you want. So my father, he is in his 70s and he will never retire. He's still working, paying into the system. So every year he works, he is in his highest earnings years that he knocks off one of those 35 years, he knocks off a lower earnings years and they recalculate his benefit each year and he actually gets a higher Social Security check with his higher employment earnings that he's paid in. So a lot of people do that. Once you're full retirement age, you're not handcuffed anymore. You can do whatever you want.
And as you continue working beyond your full retirement age, your benefits grow a little bit.
Yep. If you're doing like adding more to your record, it's knocking off a lower earnings years. They recalculate it every year.
Oh, wonderful. So that's great to know. All right. So hope that answered the question. I will see if there is anything else that comes in for us to answer. I really like the idea that you've emphasized how you can play with spousal benefits and what the decision will be. And also for divorced people. So divorced people can claim spousal benefits and let their own right, correct? So they don't have to take them.
So with spousal benefits, if your benefit is higher than half of your spouse's, you don't qualify. You're going to be just taking your own retirement benefit. But I have a lot of situations where, hey, I found out my ex-spouse died. And we talked about those switching strategies where, well, I'm 60. I can claim a survivor benefit on my ex. And I can switch between my benefit and theirs depending on whose is higher.
But
So,
can you claim your own benefits before survivor benefits if they're lower and then switch to the survivor? That's
yep.
So it could be, it can apply to your spouse, but that also the same strategy can apply to your ex-spouse.
Yes.
Right.
And then, I mean, this has happened before. I've seen it so many times. Like, hey, you had an ex-spouse, you got remarried, and now your current spouse died. Now you have two options. Let's see who's the higher earner, and that's the survivor benefit you're going to take. You get to pick, you look at your multiple spouses and see who's the higher earner, and that's the benefit you're going to claim.
Makes sense. That's great. Good to know. Very good refresher. Is there any new legislative changes you believe coming up, or right now status quo, just maybe full retirement age might be pushed out?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit bearish on anything happening soon. So they have about 10 years to figure this out. They have so much on their plate for 2025 with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expiring, with, we don't know what's going to happen with the election. There's a lot, the Affordable Care Act, elevated subsidies are expiring. So there's a lot of expiring legislation that's going to have to be top of mind. So I think we're looking years out. They're going to kick the can on this for a while, and then they're going to have to pick something, debate it out. But once we can do a couple small things, the millennial generation is so huge when they start to get into their peak earnings years and they're all paying in, it almost organically fixes itself over time. We just, my generation ruined it not having enough kids.
But it's not the case for millennials, you think? No.
Yeah, I have one kid, everybody had like one or two, and
right.
Yeah.
That's why the workforce power that contributes to the system, right? So a lot of people concerned about Social Security benefits being paid out, they want to start them sooner because what if it's not going to be there? But in reality, it's not really the case. Not only the fund contributes toward your pension benefits, also the current workforce does. So I think for those who are retiring now or 10 years from now, I think it's probably And absolutely, I don't believe it's a concern at all. I think we're all looking into social security benefits that will continue for years. And that's one of the social assistance that everybody receives, and we paid into it. So removing that, it's not going to be a pretty picture. So I don't believe government will ever go there, right? So
I know, I can't imagine what politician would let that happen on their watch. It wouldn't look good.
Absolutely not. It's not going to pass through legislature probably also. So I think that's pretty safe to say that Social Security benefits here to stay. The full retirement age for younger folks, for our kids and nephew and nieces probably will increase. Maybe they will play with an inflation adjustments, not to be so generous, but the benefits are there. The good news is the system is in place. Where we need to pay attention to is usually only 1/3 or less of your income needs is replaced by Social Security. So we have to have other sources of income, which is your retirement assets, non-retirement assets, real estate income. So all of that is part of your overall income needs and retirement. But spousal benefits claiming and working and making sure we don't miss those dates. We don't miss the one. If you're a widow and you can start claiming at 60. If something happened, you can claim. If your spouse passes away, you can claim his or your benefits. So we need to always pay attention to those special events that happen. And that's why I have always a reminder myself on the calendar if somebody turning a certain age that we need to pay special attention to it. Not to leave money on the table, as I said, Julia. Yep. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Anybody is welcome to unmute themselves or raise the hand. I'll give you a couple of minutes to gather up thoughts. And if not, I will make this available to you. You can view it again. And any questions, please let me know. I can always reach out to Julia. She's a specialist here and get you all the answers you're looking for. All right.